I was debating whether I would make this, what I would write it or do a video. I'm still not sure. But I'm going to call this Life is a Story. So, okay, so um, what this life we live in, my philosophy, my way of looking at it, is a story, like a storybook. You have, there's many different stories that we're aware of, TV series, book series, books. They all tell different stories. And now we look at those, a lot of people look at those and they just say, oh, that's just make believe. That's just a fictional story. But I think that is devaluing it too much. Um, because if we were the character in that story, it would be real to us. Like, I'll just use Alice's Adventures in Wonderland for example, because that's a really popular one. If we were actually, our consciousness was inside Alice in the Adventure of Wonderland, that would be our reality. So what my argument is that reality is a relative thing. So we see this as reality because this is where we are. When you think about it, all of everything is actually just imagination being played out. Scenarios that had to first be imagined and then played out. I mean, you can see this in real life, whereas, when an invention is built, before it's actually built and working, somebody has to come up with the idea, which is the imagination. And then after they come up with the idea, which is in their imagination, then they go and build it. So that's what I would argue. That's what this Earth is. Earth is original. It was something like an imagined concept, and it's real because we're inside of it, inside this dream, inside this imagination, this concept that was imagined and envisioned with all these rules attributed to it and binded to it. Now, there's all this debate on God, of course, where we have the people, the agnostics, the atheists, the theists, and even debate on what agnostic means. But I'm not going to go into the different definitions. But I'm just going to say some people believe that there's a God. Some people believe that there's many gods. Some people don't believe there's a God. Some people think that it's unknowable. My view is that um, God might not be the best term. Where a more accurate term I think would be like the Great Spirit, which is which is basically the author of this story that we're in. So authors this story, and so we have all these different events that go on, and some people may say like, oh, does praying to God for something to happen, is that arrogant? So if I say, oh God, please let such and such happen, and I guess the best way, I guess what I would have to say is, I guess if it fits the narration of the story, I think looking at soul, life, and God as a storybook, I think is a more accurate way to look at life and God and the soul than the way most people are accustomed to looking at it. And I don't think there's like, we could say, where does the soul live? And I think it's just one soul. I would say it's just one soul. And it's just the author, and it's the story. This is the story. And, like you could have a story where one of the characters in the story, wishes for something to happen, or asks for something to happen, or even asks the author or the narrator, or God for something to happen, and that could play into the story of it happening. So, did it happen because the character asked God for it to happen? And I guess you could kind of say in a way it does. And I guess it just what fits the story is, I guess, what happens. I guess I would have to say, and I'm saying I guess a lot because it's a hard thing to really put your finger on, consciousness and the whole philosophy of life. And you know is it's what kind of what real I guess what happens is basically mainly what fits the story. What really fits into the story is what's going to happen. And that's what we all are. That's the way I see us, as we're all just characters in a story. And we're all part of the great spirit, which is the great author of this story that created this planet and created this and we all have different personalities that are part of our character, our character. And now some people would ask, where we go when we die. And now when you look at a lot of storybooks, and you look at where they go when they die, um, they basically cease to exist, and they die when the author stops writing. And we're kind of like in this infinite of, you know existence is this infinite, basically infinite imagination, and dreaming, and so when I die, we don't know where we go when we die. Do we stop existing, or do we live another life somewhere else in another universe and in another dimension? But we are all ultimately a part of the whole. So, even when we do die, we don't actually cease to exist. Even if we cease to exist on a personal level, on a character level, where our character doesn't exist, the grand author that dreamed us up still exists. So in that way, we still exist.